Is Albert Mendoza the answer for Georgia Tech's quarterback after Haynes King left? A lot is riding on the Indiana transfer.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Into this crossover, Locked On Georgia Tech and Locked On the Portal. I am your host, Brian Smith, along with Jarvis Davis of Locked On Georgia Tech. Thank you very much, Jarvis, for joining me. I have some fun questions to put Jarvis on the hot seat, which honestly will be most of the show, to be quite frank, because he's the one that's the expert on the Tech football program. But we're also going to get into just how good is the roster. Has Brent Key and company back office done a lot to do this roster, or is it similar to what it was a couple years ago? We'll get into that. But most importantly, as I noted in the opening, they bring in Alberto Mendoza. Alberto Mendoza is not a household name, but his brother is. So he's got a lot of pressure that's really not his fault, but the name matters. So first off, do you think he will A, be the starter for all 12 games, and B, what are your expectations for him if he is?
I have no doubt that he's going to be the starter for all 12 games. And when you think about the type of guy that he is, I feel like he's prepared for this moment. Like when coming in back into the spring and even coming into fall camp, he's been the guy that's been the leader for this team. He's established himself as that. Like you talk to some of the wide receivers, guys who has earned the opportunity to be able to get some playing time. Guys like DeBron Gallen, who's no one has probably ever even heard of. He had an excellent spring. He talked about how, hey, Alberto gathered up all the troops. Hey, man, we're about to get ready to throw today. So y'all want to come get some of this work? You're more than welcome to come. And they've done that. They did that on days that they had work going on as far as from a football standpoint. And they did it on, quote unquote, off days. And I think that when you are gathering the troops together and guys are actually participating and feel like they're getting something out of it, that says a lot for a guy who hasn't started a college football game. So for me, I feel like he's not going anywhere. Like he would have to play really bad for them to even to consider something like that. But when you have a guy like in that spot who's seen it, he understands how to win. You know, he's been in that situation before under Signetti and under his brother and understanding what his brother had to do to get to that point. I feel like he's going to apply some of those things. I'm not saying he's going to be his brother. I'm not saying that. But I am saying that he has all the tools. He has all the know-with-all to be able to have some success in an offense that is not going to be built around him making plays. It's going to be built around him handing that bad boy off.
There's nothing wrong with that. If he were to go out of the lineup for any point, Mendoza, who's the backup and what style are we going to see?
Grady Adamson. He's a guy that he caught the coach's eye in the spring. He's a guy that he's kind of like built in the mold of a Haynes King. He's a little bit more thicker. He can take a couple hits. You know, he can be a guy that you can run that RPO offense with, and it won't be a surprise if he keeps that bad boy. And he has that guy that he kind of seeks out contact when it comes to him running the football because he's built like that. And I thought it was very interesting with Chris Winkie, you know, the quarterback coach. You know him very well for Locked On Seminoles. He was saying there's a big difference when you have guys who've been on the team before and you're running the same offense. But Grady Adamson, unfortunately, even though he was here on this team last year, he had to learn an entire new offense too, along with Alberto Mendoza. So when you have, and it's not necessarily the type of offense that you're going to run last year, because I know for a fact Brent Key did not want to have an offense centered around the quarterback. Like you can't live and die with the quarterback. And that's the offense that was run last year with Buster Faulkner as offensive coordinator. And granted, it was a good game plan. You won 9 games and you got to a bowl game and had opportunity to be in the ACC championship if you had to beat Pitt. But that's the thing that Key doesn't want to find himself in this year. He wanted to make sure that, hey, I have enough talent surrounded around my quarterback, regardless of who it is. And I think that if you have a situation where Alberto goes down and Grady Addison has to come in, I don't think it's going to change anything as far as from a game plan standpoint, because he's still going to be turning around and handing that bad boy off to Justice Haynes and Malachi Hosley too.
Is he a little bit more of a threat than with RPO and just going around the end or extending the play, and at the last second maybe he tosses it to the receiver or tight end? He's going to be annoying to get to the ground. Is that a fair assessment if he comes into the game?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. I think he's going to be a guy you better be concerned about him keeping that bad boy, because he's a heck of an athlete. Like I said, I feel like he's built in the mold of a Haynes King. Probably has a little bit of a better arm as well, as far as throwing the rock down the field. So yeah, if Grady comes in, I feel like defenses are going to have to change how they do things, and I think George Gossey, being that he runs that pro style offense, which the main part of that is being able to adapt to your personnel, I think he will implement some of those things. Not necessarily exactly what Buster did last year as a play caller, but I think he's going to be able to bring something to highlight what Grady does best. And I think that RPO piece will probably be something that will benefit this offense a lot if he is able to get in the game.
When we come back, we're going to hit on Georgia Tech's bread and butter, their offensive line, and dive into how good the roster is. That is next here on this crossover. Today's show is brought to you by Kalshi. Before the season even kicks off in the ACC or the NFL or anywhere else, who's going to win the division? Who's going to make it to the playoffs? Well, on Kalshi, America's #1 prediction market platform, you can trade those predictions in a live market over and over. I went and took a look at Georgia Tech. Their first game is against Colorado. I was curious, what is the percentage that everybody's going with on the market? Right now, Colorado at 31% and Georgia Tech 69% to win that game. Again, this is on Kalshi, and if you change your mind, you can go in another direction, because that's what it's all about. It's not just one answer. You can change your opinion. So head over to Kalshi, where trading against peers in a live market is what you do. There's no house. And as the probability changes, you can buy in and out of your position, trade the draft pick, the game, and more on Kalshi. Download the Kalshi app and use code LOCKEDON for $10 off when you trade $10. Kalshi is spelled Kalshi. Kalshi. Trade on anything. All right, let's talk about the bread and butter for Tech, and that's the offensive line. Is it at least as good, if not better, than the 24-25 offensive lines for the Yellow Jackets? What do you think this year?
I think there is going to be better play at center with Joseph Ionata coming from Alabama, transferred in for Alabama. I think that's going to be an upgrade, but it's hard outside of that. Ethan Mackenny, he's a returning starter at the left tackle spot. I feel like he's an NFL-caliber player. And Malachi Carney, who was at starting right tackle last year, they're sliding him down in the right guard. And who was at right guard last year? Keelan Rutledge, who went in the first round. So it's hard for me to say that it will be better, but I feel like in certain spots, like the center spot, I feel like it's going to be better. Ethan McKinney, another year under this belt. This is the money year. Like he's going to be eligible to go into the NFL after this season. So I feel like he's going to have a good year if he remains healthy. And I feel like Carney is going to be a guy who's you slide down to that right guard spot. He can play his way to at least being in a conversation to go to the next level. And then Jamison Riggs, who's kind of been one of those versatile guys that kind of bounce around at different positions. He's going to be a first-year starter at the right tackle spot. So I won't say right now that it will be better, but I feel like there are some spots that they definitely will be better, and hopefully that ends up being, hey, they have some success in the run game, because if they don't have success opening up holes in that run game, man, I don't know where this season is going, Brian. I'm telling you.
That's a fair assessment. Let's talk a little bit more big picture here. Georgia Tech, obviously, O-line is their bread and butter. Georgia Tech's 27 class. It's a quality group. They spend a lot more on NIL, but those guys aren't on campus yet. How many of the 24, 25, and 26 Georgia Tech recruits do you think are going to be consistent contributors? Did they do a good job or is it transitioned into at least a little bit more of a portal team? I know they got Justice Haynes, that's one, but what are your overall thoughts on recruiting compared to the portal for the Yellow Jackets?
I think the overall piece of what Tech wants to do going forward, like I think that if they had their preference, right? If you ask them what would they like to go after in the portal after the season, more so skill positions. And I feel like they want to go straight high school when it comes to those big boys up front, because you want to be able to have those guys develop, bring them in, because there are going to be some guys that you feel like, hey, they might not be able to play for me in that first year, but I feel like we can develop those guys into we can develop some Keelan Rutledges. You know what I'm saying? Coming from Middle Tennessee State and end up being a first round draft pick after that horrible accident that he had. That means something. That means that, hey, they've been able to develop some guys on the offensive line, which makes sense, right? Because your head coach is a former offensive lineman, and I think Alan Mogridge, Coach Mo, that dude is a psycho when it comes to offensive linemen. That man absolutely gets after it. So those guys understand what the expectations are. So I think focusing in on the offensive and defensive linemen coming out of high school, and if they have to go in the portal to get some skill guys, wide receivers or whatever, maybe a quarterback, I think the preference would be not to have to go into the portal for a quarterback. Hopefully Alberto Mendoza rides the rest of his couple of years that he has left out here. And then, then you develop a young guy in Cole Bergeron, who's a 4-star guy in the 2026 class. So I think it's a matter of focusing in on the big boys, getting those guys in the door, because got the Hurd twins, Cortland and Courtney. Those guys are 6'4", 6'5", 330, 340 pounds, man, and they still got some baby weight on them. So one of them has already kind of got rid of it, and because they were early enrollees for the 2026 class, and they might be able to get some playing time at some point this year. Then you have the 2025 guy in Josh Petty. He was the big-time recruit, right? He's coming back in October. So he's probably going to get some playing time once he's fully healthy as the season goes along. So, yeah, I think it's a matter of getting those big boys out of high school and then kind of filling in the gaps with the portal, because you know how expensive it can get, Brian. If you're trying to hit the portal for offensive lineman, defensive lineman, man, you have guys that put the quarterback on the ground, the price just goes up, and up when you come to those premium positions. So, yeah, I think they want to continue to focus on high school, and then if there's a sore spot, then they hit the portal.
Yeah, for those that don't know, Jordan Seaton, that went from Colorado to LSU, $4 million was the number.
Come on, man. Nobody's trying. Like, when you talk about, that's why I say it is so important that these guys have these general managers and these financial people, man, because you can't say, hey, like Coach Prime, you can't fill out rosters every year via the portal, man. It's just too expensive, man. It's just like you're going to miss on guys. And I think that the more you have guys in your building that you develop, they might not be as good as those guys, but hey, they're your guys and you develop them. So those guys are going to be more apt to stick around and play these things out, especially when they see guys that are in front of them doing the same thing and still getting an opportunity to play at the next level.
I absolutely agree. Dalen Penson, Jordan Allen, a couple guys they recruited. Starters or at least too deep, like every depth chart I see is different. I always like to ask people, they're in the mix at the very least, and it wouldn't be surprising if one or both of them started at receiver this year. Is that accurate or no?
So I would, if you tell me, ask me about a pecking order as far as his wide receiver group, I will go Jordan Allen, because he's the only guy that had production last year. And then I will go Zay Furman. He's a 6'4", 220-pound guy coming from Elon, averages 20 yards a catch last year with 9 touchdowns.
Oh, wow.
Super productive on the FCS level. We'll see how that transfers into the Power 4. And then Dalen Penson, he's very interesting because he just switched from the defensive side of football to wide receiver in the spring. So the fact that he's been able to come in, he came in first day of fall camp, taking somebody deep for like 50 yards. Alberto Mendoza hit him right down the sideline. he had the guy beat so badly, the ball was kind of bad, almost a little bit behind him. He still kind of turned around and caught it, and the guy still wasn't even in the picture, man. So it's still like 1 or 2 yards away. He had beat him so badly. Dude was a big time track star, back-to-back state champion.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
saw
running
that.
speed guy. So yeah, he's doing exactly what you thought by putting the track guy at the wide receiver spot. So yeah, that'll probably be my top 3 right now, as far as the pecking order, as far as that wide receiver group.
Well, if they've got a deep threat, that helps Justice and everybody else they put at the running back position, because you can't just automatically put an extra defender in the box. That's something to keep in mind.
Sure.
What position are you most concerned about if you had to pick one? I don't care which side of the ball you go with.
For me, I will have to look at that linebacker group. I know that's the most experienced position group on this roster. Like, there are a lot of guys that, in their last year, you got Cayman Spalding, Kyle Efert, and E.J. Lightsey. E.J. came in from Georgia, had the issue, got shot before, and ended up having to transfer and all that stuff. So he's been through a lot. Those guys, the expectations for those guys, if those guys don't have a better year than they did last year, I don't know where this defense is going to be. This defense has to be able to, I feel like it's upgraded just from a strictly personnel standpoint, but that linebacker group has to play better. And I think in talking with, Kyle Efert at ACC Media Days, he's like, say, hey, man, I'm fully healthy. I'm not going to use that as an excuse. I know I didn't play that well last year, but I'm fully healthy now. And I think with the system that Jason Seymour is bringing in, at having that more attack style defense, I feel like he feel like he's going to be able to have a better year. And I think that linebacker group led by him, if they have a better year this year, the defense is going to be in a good spot.
Can they cover in space when running backs and tight ends try to get involved in the passing game? That's always my question about linebackers. Always.
Sure. So Efert and Lightsey, I will probably put Lightsey as a better coverage guy, but there's another senior in Cayman Spalding. Number one, he is going to be on 3rd and long. He's going to be out there in coverage. When you talk about a nickel-based defense, he'll be out there. It'll probably be EJ and, a combination of, Efert and or Lightsey, depending on the situation. But, yeah, Spalding is the coverage linebacker for sure.
All right. Well, when we come back, we're going to talk about Georgia Tech's biggest strength, in my opinion. It's the running back room, because Justice Haynes is that guy. And as we all know, Brent Key kind of likes to run the football. It's a rumor. But if they can't do that, Mendoza's job won't be very easy. That is next, right here on this crossover. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Odoo. Running a business shouldn't feel like you're trying to connect a bunch of systems that were never designed to work together. One app for accounting, another for inventory, another for sales, and somehow none of them talk to one another. That's where Odoo comes in. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that brings every part of your business together in one powerful platform. Sales and accounting to inventory and marketing, everything works in one place. Odoo is one platform to manage, grow, and scale your business. The best organizations know that success isn't just about talent. It's about having everyone working toward the same goal, and that's true in sports, just like it is in business. For Georgia Tech, they've put together a roster without the same money as some other teams like a USC or a Miami, because they found guys that fit and they match it together and they've had success. Great organizations win because operations matter, and that's why you should get Odoo. Try for free today at odoo.com/locked on. That's odoo.com/locked on. Running back has Justice Haynes there. For those who don't know, he's from the Atlanta area. His dad played at Georgia, national recruit, went to Bama, went to Michigan. Now he's back home in this greater Atlanta area at Georgia Tech, and he's had success. He's the guy. Tell me about the backup running back. I don't know as much about him. I'm not from the Atlanta area. Give people a glimpse of why they have a 1-2 punch and not just a one-man show.
Well, when you look at what Justice Haynes did last year, man, I feel like the man was on his way to being a finalist for the Doak Walker Award.
I do too. He got banged up.
He got banged up, and that's the only reason why we're not having that conversation, or he doesn't have that accolade under his belt. he averaged 7 yards a pop. Malachi Hosley, the guy who was the backup to Jamal Haynes, who had been around Tech for a long time and was a super productive player. Malachi Hosley he averaged 7 yards a pop too. And he was the most explosive back on this team last year, Jamal Haynes included. And a lot of people didn't like that when I said it last year, but I just only go off of what I see, Brian. And that young man is just as explosive. He's just as a visionary when he comes to recognizing things and being able to hit the right hole at the right moment, put that foot to ground, and get upfield. And I had a chance to talk to him at ACC Media Days, and I asked him, I was like, "Hey man, if I balled out the way I did last year, and they brought in a guy like Justice Haynes, I probably would have felt a certain type of way about it. What were your thoughts when you heard about when it was confirmed that Justice Haynes was coming?" He was like, "Initially, I felt that, but he said once he got a chance to talk to his people, he was like, man, he was okay with it because in the NFL, man, like there ain't no one man backfields anymore. Like ain't no power backs and handing it off 35, 40 times a game to one guy. Those days are gone." And he said, and he put it plain and simple, man. And it lets me know that he has a really good head on his shoulders and what the expectations are to get to the next level. He was just like, man, look, they don't care about the production. They care about, can I do it? Do I have the explosiveness? Do I have the production when I do get the rock? And we saw that consistently last year, man. This man it's a running back tandem that should be talked about more. They even call themselves the Bad Boys at ACC Media Day. So, it's when you think about those guys and understanding like how this is how it is in the NFL, and they've accepted that on the college level because there are egos out there too. These young men have egos too. So they kind of accepted that. And I think people should know that, hey, it's not just a one-man band. Malachi Hosley is the real deal, and he's just as explosive as Justice as well.
Well, if they have that 1-2 punch, that gives them a chance again to open things up and, throw the ball deep to Jordan Allen or whoever it ends up being. If they're going to be an explosive offense, you got to have a little bit of both. You got to hope for Mendoza to do his thing, but it's a lot easier when that safety's crept up and you have more options. So that's a very important part of this team. What do you think is going to be the definition, really? Are they going to be the surprise ACC team and maybe go to Atlanta? Or is this a team that's probably a step short of that? Where do you think their level is at the top for this regular season?
Wow. I do think they can be a top 5 team, a top 5 finisher in the conference, because that's what they kind of been hovering at for the last 3 or 4 years. So that's not out of the realm. But as far as getting to Charlotte, I think they can get there. And to be honest with you, I don't think it would be a surprise, because when you look at what Key has done when he's been the full-time head coach, 7-6, 9-4, like it's been a gradual progression going into his 4th full year as the head coach of this team. Like there has to be that next step. And I think that when you look at the financial investment that has been put behind this team, because a lot of people didn't believe it, didn't want to believe that it's starting to change. Yeah, I know we had that conversation too, Brian, early in the spring. It was just like, yeah, man, the money is coming. It's coming. So I think, Key is in a space where he wants to be able to sustain this and continue to get better. So I don't think it would be that big of a surprise to me if this team were to somehow fall into that ACC championship, because you play 11 Power 4 teams. It's a hard schedule for sure. Are there some minds on this bad boy? Absolutely. But I think for overall, this is going to be one of those things where you look at this schedule and you say, all right, yeah, it's tough, but I feel like there are some moments where if they were able to get some wins, especially when you play in Pitt and then you have Louisville, if you mess around and beat Louisville, which we know everybody in their mama is picking them to be at the top of the ACC or in their top 3 at least, I feel like they'll be in putting themselves in a good spot coming down that road in November.
Yeah, for those that aren't looking at this live on their screen based on YouTube, I've got the schedule pulled up. On Halloween, which is also Nick Saban's birthday, they play at Pitt, come home, play Louisville. Then on the 14th, they've got a game at Clemson. That's a tough 3-game slate, and it's by name recognition. And don't forget, I'm not saying it's going to happen again this year. Wake Forest won 9 games last year. That would be the 4th game in a row before they play at Georgia. So the end of the schedule is far more difficult to me.
Sure.
They open the year with Colorado. I think they'll win. Tennessee's iffy. They got a freshman quarterback going to be the guy. They got Mercer. They got at Stanford. Duke lost Mensa. Like there's a lot of questions. They could start the year 6-0, 7-0. It would not shock me because they play a bunch of teams that just aren't that good. But then at the end, they could completely bomb if they don't play well in close games because every one of those teams is going to be competitive. I think that is such a unique aspect of college football compared to pro. There is no pro schedule like this.
No,
never, ever. By your 3rd game, you're going to play a top 8 team in the NFL pretty much. Everybody does. That's pretty much how it is. And if you're not ready that day, you're going to get bounced. Well, no offense, but Stanford and Mercer, those kind of teams aren't scaring anybody. If you lose to them, then it's never going to happen anyway. What is your take on their final win-loss record? 8-4 is 7-5, somewhere in that range would be my guess is what you're going to say, but you know this team better than I.
For me, I feel like the floor is 7-5, and I think 9-3 could be there a nice ceiling for them. Because like the 2 SEC teams, non-con, even though I feel like they have a really good chance of beating Tennessee because they have a true freshman quarterback, it's perfect that they're getting him early because that's when you talk about a true freshman, they don't really understand what they're about to get themselves into. And I don't care how great true freshman is. He can be a 5-star, 6-star, plus player. He's going to make some dumb mistakes because that's just how it is because there are different coverages and everything. It's so many things that are going to be thrown at them, different looks, disguise and stuff. Like there's going to be a lot thrown at those guys, especially early on. And I think that the player that he is in that 2nd game is going to be totally different. The player in that 10th game. And it will probably be a different result in that 10th game just because of the talent matching up with the production as the season goes along. So yeah, I feel this is a 7-5 floor, 9-3 type team. And if we can see maybe an upset down there in Athens, which I know everybody would love to see in the city of Atlanta, you're talking about a 10 game. And that would be, man, they might give Brent a lifetime contract if that happens.
There you go. There you go. Well, Jarvis, I appreciate you giving all the information you did. Sounds like Georgia Tech is going to be a fly in the ointment at the very least. In the ACC, by the way, they don't play Miami or SMU. Outside of Louisville, those will be the 2 most popular teams to reach.
Yeah, exactly.
Charlotte, so that's an advantage. Yep. Absolutely. I appreciate it. Where can everybody find your work?
They can find me on all social platforms at Locked On Georgia Tech. One of my original account, my personal account, got hacked, Brian, and they said the Russians don't want to give it back. So hey, we still gonna roll with Locked On Georgia Tech. You can find me on all social platforms.
All right, brother. You can find the Portal Podcast all the same places that you do Locked On Georgia Tech: Spotify, Apple, Podbean, Amazon, of course, on YouTube. This has been a crossover, Locked On Georgia Tech and Locked On the Portal.